pretty expert at that.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. You know what I've been meaning to do? I don't know what happened with Dark Road.
I know a few things, but I haven't, gone through all of it, because I decided for some reason I'm going to play this myself. Never mind the fact that they didn't really add new ways to get stronger, so anyone who was up to date can basically just power through the entire thing. Meanwhile, I'm over here stuck at the start of Chapter 2 because it takes, hours to gain even the slightest amount of problem. I can bitch about that game a ton if you really want.
I do want you to, honestly. I just wanna get a real fast summary of what the hell happens here. Completely offline. I hear that we found out that Xehanort actually shaves his head. That's one thing I heard.
What?
Yeah.
I haven't actually looked at the plot stuff aside from one thing, which is basically that the big twist at the end of Union Cross was a complete fake out, and you are not actually Xehanort.
Wait, you're not?
I mean, you're playing Xehanort in Dark Road, but the ending of Union Cross implied that your player became Xehanort.
That is what I thought, too.
And this reveals that's not actually what happened.
What did happen?
Apparently, the person you reincarnate is one of Xehanort's mentors, and Xehanort somehow gets memories from him for some reason.
Okay. That's stupid, whatever.
So they're not actually fixing the problem.
No,
what
not.
Problem?
There is no problem. It's just,
that's disappointing.
We're burning pod. We should probably just start. How do I start this thing? Does anyone remember how I do this?
Let's see. There's a I'm pretty sure you insert that in post.
I do insert that in post.
No.
I have an entire band back here. They go and they play for us in real time.
And then you welcome then you do the welcome thing. You usually get the URL of the website wrong.
Okay.
And then you introduce us, and then it's basically open season for whatever the hell we want to do.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna do it my way. All right. So we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Final Fantasy footballer fans. It's late August 2022, which means that the football season is right around the corner. You've come to the right place.
That's fake football, by the way.
No,
He's talking about American football instead of the real sport.
Yeah, no, there is no other sport. There's only football. All other sports are fake or derivatives of the pure glory that is Final Fantasy football, which is here. It is coming. I actually have my draft on Monday. And I've got to figure that whole thing out. It's gonna be a terrible time. I actually hate fantasy football. It is nothing but pain. Anyway, this bit's not really landing. So my name's BlueHighwind, and this is the Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast. This is a monthly podcast about FinalFantasy.wikia.com, right?
No, it's not.
It's not?
I mean,
it's
that
not
one works.
Wikia.com.
That URL works, so...
Okay.
That's true.
FinalFantasy.fandom.com, right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's
All
the
right.
main one.
All right, so Wikia rebranded as Fandom, and soon enough Wikia will probably get bought by the Embracer Group or some bullshit, so then it will be FinalFantasy.embracer.com. And then the Embracer Group will go out of business, and then we'll have no website whatsoever. But this podcast will live on. Joining me tonight are these two people. They should probably introduce themselves.
I'm SomeColorMage.
Should I really introduce myself? I've been on long enough that I think you know who I am at this point. Like,
well, what if
do I need an introduction?
Well, if maybe this is your first time listening. Who knows? Every podcast is some
listeners. I'm Technobliterator. I'm the person you're probably complaining about if it's an FF7 content related question. But
yeah. I mean, let's be real. There's not that many listeners. But maybe this is their first time, and they need to know who they are, and develop, parasocial relationships with us. get a crush on Technobliterator and decide that they really hate SomeColorMage and write fanfics about me, and there you go. That's how the internet works.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, all three of us have gotten complaints about the stuff we've done related to the wiki from some weirdos, because people used to hate your style of writing, Blue, and Ship has always complained about the FF7, and I believe there have been multiple forum pages on the site complaining about shit posts I made on the Twitter account.
Well, you say that people used to hate my writing. The thing is, people have always hated my writing. I am an extremely unsuccessful writer by all definitions.
Yeah, but they don't vocally complain about it anymore.
I would take that over nothing. 0 comments is the greatest pain of the 21st century. Anyway, this is August, and what we're going to do tonight is there was a few updates to various things, and then we're going to go talk about some wiki stuff. Actual wiki things on the Wiki Podcast. I think this might be a first for us. So, should we start with the news?
Yeah. And what did you want to start with? Because there's a few things to look at.
There's not a ton, but I mean, there are things. My first bit of news here is that there was a DDoS attack for Final Fantasy XIV at the beginning of the month. Doesn't look like it lasted all that long, so I don't know. We could move past that one.
Yeah, it's an MMO. That shit happens occasionally.
Yeah. It was big enough for Eurogamer to report it. Next thing is that Tactics Ogre Reborn, the game that has been so heavily rumored that everyone knew it was happening, is officially happening.
Yep.
That's good.
It is good. It's nice. It's a really good game. People should play it. I think November's podcast is going to have to be Tactics Ogre versus Final Fantasy Tactics. That's going to be our main subject.
Oh my god.
Yep. We have to decide which one's better. I know it's difficult.
That's a totally fair podcast. So I'd be down with that.
Let's see. Next thing is that SomeColorMage. This is probably your remit. We have a new Final Fantasy XIV patch. This is patch 6.2 Buried Memory. It officially released last week.
Yeah, that was this Tuesday. Well, Tuesday my time. I forget what time the patch is in America. But yeah, so that has come out. If you like Final Fantasy IV related stuff, this patch rules because the story has fights with both Scumayan and Barbarisha.
Oh. Kane's girlfriend, Barbarisha.
Yeah, although Kane's not in here, so she's basically just here to whip her hair back and forth. But start fucking wearing her clothes like Bayonetta. Like the second phase of the fight, she just turns her hair into fucking power armor and just starts punching the shit out of you.
Okay, I didn't know you were a Willow Smith fan, SomeColorMage.
That's the only line I know of that person's music.
She actually has a punk band now, and
she made that song, and then 10 years later she made punk rock or something. Like
her new song is actually pretty damn good, surprisingly.
Okay, what genre is it?
It's punk, just what I said.
Huh.
Somebody's gonna be like, no, it's not punk, it's like mathcore punk or some shit, but punk, I think, is just what you need to call it.
Yeah.
There's also also in 14, because this is the even number patch. There's a continuation of the raid story with Pandemonium, which because you're going back into past and interacting with some of the villains from the Ascians before they completely lost their minds. You basically can confuse the hell out of them on several occasions by talking about things that haven't happened yet. And there's also this one song from the fights in there that is really damn good. I don't really want to link stuff because don't know where a good source for songs that haven't been put into the OSTs are yet.
Square Enix also makes it extremely difficult to find music now. This is their new thing this year, is taking down songs off YouTube. It's awful of them.
Yeah, well, they have their own YouTube channel for that stuff now, so I guess they decided to ramp up to draw people to their own shit.
Yeah, but they don't upload nearly enough, and no, I don't agree with them with this decision. If I want to listen to Megalovania from Live Alive, I should just be able to do that wherever.
Oh, no, it's a shitty decision, but I know why they have done said shitty decision. Because capitalism is a hellscape which encourages the most greedy actions you can ever do. I
mean, we can't play the song on the podcast anyway, so...
Yeah. And there's not really much else to say about 6.2. It hasn't been like as big of a complete mess that there's been a lot of weird glitches and stuff that happened in the last patch and stuff. There's been nothing really at that scale. Although there is an ending to that housing saga.
Oh.
Where because in one of the original parts of their response was that they offered it was because if it rolled 0 and it didn't completely glitch out the returns, the people who were supposed to have won were able to claim a full refund because the game thought that they had lost the roll when they'd actually won. And
this is not the housing crisis that people can't get homes. This is the housing crisis where people won houses months ago but didn't receive them.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean it's all really part of the same crisis, but yeah, they did fix that, but of course they didn't really have a way to claw the money that's supposed to be used back. So instead, they've opened up a little shop, which is in the game, which is optional, and anyone can use it actually. That it has a bunch of housing items that just so happen to cost the exact same amount as all of the plots of land. And they're basically just little posters and stuff of like numbers and such, begging for forgiveness at how badly they screwed the whole situation up. And that's how the housing situation ends. With the game making fun of itself.
Alright, I mean, I guess as long as it's not the WeWork guy deciding to buy up a bunch of property in Final Fantasy XIV as his new big investment.
I don't think that kind of thing is possible anymore.
With artificial scarcity, we can always find a way to monetize the rot. Is that all we got for Final Fantasy XIV? I mean,
there's not really...
There's not much to really say. I mean, we already talked about that dude. Yeah, that dude banged, apparently, and people were surprised. We already covered that last month. Yeah.
I mean, Hexed was a bit disappointed by something that happened in that bit, because the villain of this part of the raid starts talking in a way that he basically claims that he's actually Eric Onius' dad. So Hexed was really excited because he thought there was a cuckold arc going on, and then it turns out that the villain is just like La Habre split his personality in two and sealed off part of it, and that's who the villain is.
Okay. I couldn't quite follow that, but hopefully the people at home can. Should we move on to the next bit of news?
Maybe it's better, but maybe you don't. Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so this is a bit of an interview that came out on August 19th. It's Yoshi P. He admits that Final Fantasy XVI's combat is not going to satisfy everybody, but that's just what the world is.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a non-comment. That's like me saying, Gran Turismo 7 is not going to satisfy everyone who likes car games. Like, yeah, no shit.
Yep.
Like, that's a non-statement.
He also, basically said he said what I said when we were talking about 16's combat, and just, this is what AAA gaming is. Like, we're not doing turn-based.
Yeah.
That's not going to sell 10 million copies.
Yeah, like, I mean, the combat of 16 is not something I am worried about at all. You know, they've got the guy from Capcom in charge of it, and I think that guy had a good track record. But even still, like, you know, we've come a long way from the 15 game. From the single 15 game. Like, we've come a long way from 15. Like, I think they know how to do action combat at this point.
I actually rewatched the Final Fantasy XVI trailer recently, and the combat is even better than I remembered it looking. That game looks fucking great. I am very excited for it.
When you think about it, is Final Fantasy 15 really action? All you do most of the time is hold down one button.
Well, when you're playing
not pressing any buttons, the game pauses. It's like you can't actually, you know, like the game like expects you to stop and observe the thing. Like the Libra function only works when you are literally not doing anything in 15.
I guess, like...
Yeah, and you go. No. I had nothing really to say that I haven't said a billion times already.
Right, well, I was going to say, like, you know, I guess you can interpret in one sense from the comment, like, you know, so, like, for 7 Remake, I feel like their approach to that was to satisfy as many as people as possible. I think their approach with that was very much like, you know, we want to target new markets for this and new audiences, but we also don't want to, like, disappoint the people that much prefer the original combat. So this sounds to me like, you know, if you're to interpret anything from this, then this might be him saying, we don't give a fuck about, you know, the like the old style of combat, because, you know, we're going full in on the action combat direction because we think that's what's best for this game and that's what's best for this current market. So we're just going to go all in on this, and we are not concerned about, you know, the purists who would refuse to get anything that's not like, you know, that's not literally a turn-based combat system like 10 or something like that. I mean, maybe that's what he's saying, but still, like, you know, it strikes me as, oh, game won't please everyone? Yeah, no shit. Game is not supposed to please everyone. It's supposed to be a good game.
Why don't I read the exact quote as, we want the world, especially the younger generation, to play the game.
Right.
Yeah, that's, this quote is not all that well. It is the fact that people are becoming less familiar with the old-fashioned styles of RPGs, where you fight by selecting turn commands. That's why the battles in Final Fantasy XVI are very action-based. We want to make people all over the world think that Final Fantasy is a great game. Of course, I don't think we'll be able to satisfy everyone's demands, so I've told everyone on the team the first thing we need to do is make something we think is fun and make sure it reaches the people who like it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, that quote, like, in full context, coupled with, you know, I guess his approach with 14 was very much to, like, you know, with 14, it's very much to, like, be, it plays like, you know, a World of Warcraft style MMO, basically, right? So that suggests to me that his approach with this is, we're going to have an action combat system. We don't care about how Final Fantasy used to be, you know? So this is not going to be a 7 Remake style combat system wherein it merges action combat with, like, you know, the ATB system. This is going to be purely action combat, no ATB, no turn-based, you know. It's basically saying, like, you know, if you're one of those purists that refuses to play anything made after fucking 2003, then, you know, go cry about it, because we ain't making this game for you.
I don't think he put it that way, but, I mean,
I mean, this seems like his nice way of basically saying that, of basically saying, you know, we aren't targeting that market. We do not think that is not who we want to make this combat system for.
I don't even know if that market exists. Like, I don't think there are people who would only play turn-based RPGs anymore, because we went over this recently. There's only like 4 or 5 major turn-based RPG franchises left. So if you're gonna be one of those people, there's yeah.
I was gonna say, like, you're stuck with Shin Megami Tensei and like Xenoblade and
no,
like,
not
Xenoblade's
Xenoblade.
not turn-based. Xenoblade is very real-time MMO-like.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the 12 kind of combat system.
It's much more MMO-y than 12. It's all cooldowns.
Okay.
The Xenoblade system.
Right. Well, basically, you're stuck with like a very small selection of games, and if you want to be that narrow-minded, then okay, I can't tell you what to do with your time. I have a friend who has only ever played Jak and Daxter and literally has never played any other video game and never wants to. Okay, if you want to be that, like, if you want to be that narrow in your choice of what games you play, go ahead. But, there's a whole world out there. There's a whole massive market out there that we could be reaching. There's a bunch of new audiences that we could be reaching if we make the best combat system that we want to make and don't constrain ourselves with the idea that, these 5 people on Reddit said that they hate that games have changed since 2005 and will refuse to play like anything after that.
So Techno gonna be the new PR guy at Final Fantasy.
All that being said, if you are interested in turn-based games like that, the Shin Megami Tensei games do in fact fucking rule. So
yeah, those are good games, right? I mean, I say that as someone who hasn't played that many of them. Like Persona 5 kicked ass, loved that game. Those are good games. They're still out there. I highly recommend them. They're a lot of fun, right? But I do think that if, I say this as someone who is still lukewarm on 16. I am not worried about the combat at all. Like, I very much think that, I trust them with the combat system. Like, I very much think they are going to make a good combat system. And to do that, they cannot be constrained by, kind of an old school of thought, right? Because 7 Remake did it really successfully, but the reason 7 Remake had to do that is because it is a remake of an old game. It will have to in some way pay homage to the original title. 16 is brand new. It does not need to do that. There is no obligation for it to do that, and it shouldn't. I think the developers should be free to make the game that they want to make and that they think people will want to play.
Just one final thing. I would like to say that since I am an old head, nobody here would be happier to see a Final Fantasy game with turn-based combat again. And I'm not even one of those people who's like 16 needs to be turn-based, because they have not had that kind of combat for 20 years. Like, if you haven't made peace with it yet, it's been 20 years, dude.
Yeah,
but literally has been 20 years now.
Also, like this is still even considering that you do have to like count ATB as turn-based if you're using that definition.
I always have.
Like that has like, I mean, you can see even from the 90s with the addition of ATB, it's always been an attempt to add some degree of action to the system. Because, like, yeah, it's the same menu-based stuff, but you're doing it on the clock. You have to input your commands, otherwise enemies are just allowed to roll all over you.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we look at the combat systems they made since Final Fantasy X, right? They made 12, 13, and they made 15, right? The first 2 of those were an attempt to, quote-unquote, modernize ATB, right? Where 12, like, they had a more MMO style of combat thing there. I love 12. I adore it. I think that's, like, even considering how much I liked 7 Remake, I still think 12 is the best recent game that they are yet to beat, right? And the combat is one of those things because I just love the shit out of the Gambit system. I think that's so fun, right? But the Gambit system was extremely polarizing. there are people who hate it. There are people who think it's automated, or that it's not, or like, oh, you know, it's too automated for me, so I'm not having fun. Or they think like, oh, well, it's not fun to play with the menus and not automate it. So it's like, you know, there are people that don't like that combat system. 13, another attempt to modernize the combat system, right? And that was just as polarizing. You know, there are some people who say, I love 13's combat because it was challenging and it was difficult, and, you know, it made the game interesting because of this, that, and the other reason. And there are other people who say, you're just pressing X over and over again and you're letting the game play itself. That's stupid. You know? Like, these were very, like, even as someone who loves 12, I totally understand why they don't want to just do that again, because that's a very polarizing combat system and a very hard sell in today's market. Right? Now, 15, they didn't even bother to do ATB again, right? And, okay, you know, as we've said, 15's combat was way too simplistic for us. But, you know, we're not just limited between these three options, right? You know, there is a way to do action combat really well that isn't 15, basically, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm just repeating myself at this point, but I trust them.
Okay. I didn't want to tell you. I just wanted, I'm glad you realized. I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You were on a roll.
Yeah, I'm not, you can look at past episodes to see my opinion. Full opinions on 15's battle system and how they made it even worse than the demo, which... God, if they had just made 15, but with episode Duskai's combat system, that would have been so much of a better game.
Or,
well, even that, like, even if they made 15, like, with comrades, like with the comrades combat system, that would have been a better game.
Wait, I don't know what that is. What is
it?
It was like
mode of 15.
Oh, I don't even.
Yeah, it was like this multiplayer mode, but they like totally overhauled how the magic system worked in it, and it was actually like pretty inventive. I'm like, this would have been really cool to have had in the main game, but it's a little too late. But
you know what they should have done is they should have just made a Kingdom Hearts game, but with Final Fantasy as the story, because that's what I wanted from the
which is how 15 was announced, right?
Yeah, that's what Versus 13 looked like. It's Kingdom Hearts, but Final Fantasy.
Just Nomura doing Nomura things like that.
And that would have been great. Like, but that's not what we got.
Okay, I need to move on. But 15, actually, is a good jumping off point because Forespoken has been in the news. This is the new studio. This is a new game coming from, damn it, what's the name of the studio? Luminous Studio? That's it.
Luminous.
Yeah, I always get Luminous mixed up with Crystal Tools. Sorry. So, two things. First thing is that in the future, no one's going to remember this, but I feel like I should bring it up anyway, is that there was a short trailer for Forespoken that appeared on Twitter, like just like an ad, like 20 seconds long, and it kind of blew up as people were dunking on it, because the poor main girl was like, so, you might be wondering how I ended up in Final Fantasy Land. And then everyone was like, oh my god, this fucking Joss Whedon shit. And, not a good look.
Like I don't know how anyone could be surprised like that. I've been holding for like pretty much the entire time that we've seen detailed trailers of this. God, the dialogue sucks. Maybe the gameplay will be okay, but God, stop showing us this fucking awful writing.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. So we're saying that the trailer doesn't exist anymore?
No. The trailer's still there. It's just this Twitter blow up no one's going to remember.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry if I wasn't clear on that. Twitter shit is Twitter shit. Like, it is pointless and it's, like, inward looking and endless gyres of bullshit. I just wanted to say that the game isn't really selling itself too well based on the Twitter reactions. But they did get themselves a chance to try to sell a better position. That's because Gamescom is this week, and we have really nothing to talk about from that. But there was a 10-minute gameplay trailer for Forespoken, where we got to see our main character, Frey Holland, going around and shooting a whole bunch of magic at deer. And then she goes on a quest to go and get herself armor. And that was the whole trailer, really. I mean, what...
You don't sound very enthused by it. I haven't seen this trailer, so I can't comment on it.
Okay.
You don't sound very enthused by it, so judging from your reaction...
Okay, I want to play this game, and I want it to be good. The thing is, this might be more of a personal thing about me, but a giant open-world game with long, elaborate quests to go and get armor, which seems like there's going to be a ton of loot, and there's going to be a ton of going back and forth and doing things. It's just not the kind of game for me. I do think this game actually looks pretty damn cool. I like Ella Balinska as an actor. Balinska, sorry. She was in that dog shit Charlie's Angels reboot movie from a couple years ago. I might be the only person that saw it. She was the best part. Well, she was the second best part of it. I thought that she was an actress that could have deserved more than that movie. And, this game has some really just awesome looking magic effects. And you got to see it in this trailer where she shoots a ton of ice. She sets the entire friggin' screen on fire. She summons, like, all the roots from the plants to strangle deer. And they are just deer. That's the other thing from the trailer. They just look like regular old friendly deer that she murders horribly. Another thing I discovered is I thought that she lived in Jersey City, and I was excited about this because Jersey City was right around where I grew up. But no, she's from New York. I'm slightly disappointed about that. Oh well, Manhattan. Manhattan gets everything. But did anyone else see this trailer?
No, I you mean the Gamescom, right? No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay. I mean, I
will say that, having, and I'm coming from the place of having not seen this trailer, like, your reaction sounds like exactly the same as my reaction, almost word for word. Like, yeah, I could give, like, a word for word reaction to, like, my thoughts on this game, and it would pretty much be exactly that. So it's definitely not a you thing.
I mean, another thing is my reaction might just be my reaction to Gamescom in general. I did not watch the Keighley show on Wednesday or whatever it was. It was on like 2 p.m. I was at work. I had to work, all right? I wasn't gonna be watching. But I did go and follow along, and so many of those trailers, so many things that were shown were just like... I really started getting this feeling. I'm like, is video games just fucking boring? Like, is this just a boring industry?
the shows certainly are these days. Like, I mean, the main draw to E3 was that these execs would often embarrass themselves in really stupid ways. You don't get that anymore, even when E3 is running properly.
Yeah, it's just trailer after trailer. And it's exhausting.
And, like, the Gamescom thing, the only thing that seemed to get even more than a slight murmur outside of the show itself was one thing that's basically just the Rick and Morty writer being the Rick and Morty writer, which hated as hell now. And also that one trailer early on that was weird and confusing. No one really knew what it was. People looked up this company, surprise, surprise, it's NFT shit.
Oh, is that's Everywhere is the NFT shit game?
Yeah.
That's Ben's, the guy that used to work for GTA. And the that Rick and Morty game, that I watched like a few seconds of that trailer and I was absolutely flabbergasted by how bad it looked. Oh man. Just like Dan Harmon, all right? You're a voice actor. You're a professional voice actor, all right? He worked on several shows. He's also a writer. You have to have more voices than just the Morty voice. Like, it is like if, I already used this comparison somewhere else, where like, if Seth MacFarlane was brought in for a video game, and the character that he's voicing, he just did Peter Griffin the entire time. Or just did Stewie.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
Counterpoint. If I have Arnold Schwarzenegger to voice my game, I don't want anyone other than Arnold Schwarzenegger as the voice.
But right? Arnold Schwarzenegger
I want him to sound like Schwarzenegger.
he's an icon in of himself. Like, if you're a cartoon voice actor, your job is to go and create individual identities for all your characters. Like, Dan Castellaneta does not do Homer in everything he does, even if his genie does sound a lot like Homer. But he was trying to not be Homer. You were saying SomeColorMage?
Yeah, that's totally fair. And even, like John DiMaggio, for example, like, who's my favorite cartoon voice actor. I mean, like, you can listen to his different voices, and you can pick up on certain things he'll say, like, oh yeah, that's JDM, all right. But he still sounds very different in all his roles. Even in Final Fantasy, he's Heidegger, and he's also Waka.
Isn't he Gilgamesh too?
I'm not sure if he's the most recent Gilgamesh voice, but yeah,
he was Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy. Wasn't he Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy XII? He is. Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's like 12 and I think 13 too.
Oh, of course he is, because that makes sense. That's my favorite Gilgamesh voice.
Yeah, like, his Gilgamesh. Sorry.
12 always had my favorite Gilgamesh voice.
Yeah, his Gilgamesh. Sorry, I've been trying to. Yeah, his Gilgamesh sounds like Bender mixed with Crankor from MST3K. So it's a great voice. Your weapons are forfeit to me. I have traveled the waste far and wide. I can't even do it. I failed. I tried, but I couldn't do it. I didn't have the voice ready. Anyway, so Forespoken, that's coming out January 24th, 2023. And Gamescom is currently happening. One last
we assume that the date is coming out, but considering it's been delayed like 3 times at this point, who fucking knows?
I think it'll make that date. I think the game looks like almost 100% finished to me, and I think they just needed more polishing. And Square Enix is going to want it done by the end of the fiscal year. So I guess they have another 2 months to delay it.
Blue said, I'm rooting for Forspoken. It's a game you definitely want to root for. But you know what Forspoken actually reminds me of? It reminds me of Horizon. Like the Horizon games, where you look at these games as what they are, and there's not really much you can complain about because, they are they are open world, the RPG-like games that, and they do it successfully, but then they're always overshadowed by like everything else in the industry. And I feel like Forspoken might be like that.
Yeah, I was about to say, so what you're saying is that it's going to come out and then immediately get demolished in sales by whatever From Software's put out?
It's going to come out.
Yeah.
Horizon games are great because their release heralds, within a week, one of the greatest open world games of all time.
Which is kind of sad in a way because the Horizon games are good. They are good. It's just they get completely overshadowed by something that's released like, a week later or something stupid like that.
Yeah,
and I would not be surprised if Forspoken has the same thing.
Guerrilla Games, I think it is. They just have the worst, either the worst sense or worst luck in release timing.
I mean, they're good at making games, and that franchise I think is going to be perfectly viable for a third one. I'm just personally, again, like open world games like that just aren't really my thing. There's not enough climbing.
Totally fair. Like, for video games, like it was Insomniac Games who said that, but for video games, they have less of a strict release timetable than a movie does, because a movie, it's extremely important because most of the money is made through the box office. It's extremely important to get the release timing right. Whereas with a game, that's less important because, like, as big as the first week sales are for a game, they can still be like, people still buy games much later in the year. So, yeah, but I mean, Horizon would be kind of a counterpoint to that argument there, because Horizon's an example of getting the release timing wrong, and all of a sudden people don't talk about your game as much.
Okay, should we do last bit of news then? We have one last news bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you may remember last month that the Embracer Group was buying a whole chunk of Square Enix. That purchase has gone through. Square Enix has, Embracer Group has completed the acquisition of Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and other assets. The formal purchase has
Yes, which
done.
means Deus Ex is going to come back, and that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell. Like, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm kind of so-so on the future of the Tomb Raider franchise, but I'm I'm hopeful for Deus Ex because I feel like Deus Ex was a game. Like when they brought it back, I feel like they did not capitalize on its potential, and I think the reason for that is because Square Enix Japan, just did not give the appropriate it did not give the appropriate attention to their Western studios, right? Whereas, hopefully those developers are now in better hands, and they will get the attention they deserve.
Based on the structure, they're just being made into their own unit, so it's basically just Phil Rogers being in the same position he always has been, and Bracer just no, whatever, do whatever you want, and so I'm not exactly hopeful what they're going to do, because everyone laughed at how pitiful the amount of money that Square took for these companies were, but you have to remember that's still twice what they paid for them in the first place.
I'm gonna say that I don't like
Eidos is.
Yeah, no, you can keep.
Eidos has never historically been a very well-run company.
They have not been. But I was going to say something about the new parent company, Embracer Group. Have they actually ever shipped a good game? You think about the last few years, they released that Biomutant game, which seemed like just way too ambitious for its own good and wasn't all that successful.
I've got to fucking look them up again because they do own a shit ton of companies.
They own a shit ton of companies, but I'm remembering the stuff they've released.
At the same time, a lot of those companies' hits happened before Embracer bought them.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just pull up the fucking Wikipedia page. Embracer.
Well, the other reason I'm bringing it up is because just this past week they released the new Saints Row game. And that thing is apparently a pile of burning garbage shit.
Yeah, people do not like it.
Well, it's not just...
I have not heard good things.
It's not just not good, in terms of people this is just not the game for me. Apparently it's just broken as all shit, too.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I've got their list of a company now. Okay, I've never heard of any of these companies under Amplifier Game Invest. Never heard of any of these companies under Coffee Stain Holding.
Yeah, there's
you'll never Gearbox, which is fucking Gearbox.
No, thank you.
Let's see, Plaion. So that's where Volition is under. Which, Saints Row 5 has been a complete disaster.
Wow, I tried to be optimistic with this one, and it sounds like I was totally off base. It sounds like we ain't getting a good future for Deus Ex. We ain't getting a good future for Tomb Raider.
Well, the thing is, they buy a lot of companies that are either a little bit past their prime or already have failed, like THQ, and then Saber Interactive was bankrupt when they bought it.
Saber Interactive has 3D Realms, but they acquired that in 2021. That is long after 3D Realms was a big name in any sense. Let's see, THQ Nordic, you fucking know how THQ went.
Yeah.
The new operating group, which is Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, Square Enix. Deca, which is a mobile studio, which probably does good. Easy Brain, which is another mobile studio. Asmodee, which is a tabletop games company.
Yeah, they own all kinds of weird shit.
Dark Horse, which is publishing, and just going by these, probably the most successful of these groups in here.
Well, you're forgetting their crown jewel now, which is they own some rights, some fraction of Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, they fucking bought the rights to Lord of the Rings somehow. How the fuck did that even happen?
They have infinite money somehow, and their CEO just seems like he loves to buy stuff.
Yeah, and then the final one listed here is Remode, which is just all of that weird, all of those random acquisitions they announced on the same day that they announced, "Hey, we bought Lord of the Rings."
Yep.
But this is a fucking weird company, and most of its acquisitions are just complete unknowns.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
well, or not
I'm
unknowns,
pretty
but
sure
just...
at this point the biggest acquisition they have there is Dark Horse Media.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and I mean, like, really, the fact that, like, their big release was in such a bad state is something that makes me just kind of wonder about the whole company. Like, maybe they're not all that hands-on. Like, this isn't... I shouldn't be looking at this like a 2K or something, or like an EA, where if they release one bad game, it makes the entire thing look bad. But also, if they're trying to sell themselves as a major player in the industry and releasing... What the hell even was the game? Saints Row, sorry. Saints Row in that bad of a state. It just... I don't know. I hope...
Let me finish. Embracer is too big to be hands-on. Like, let me just take this line from the opening of Wikipedia's list of what they own. As of August 2022, Embracer Group has 120 internal game development studios.
Yeah, that's absurd.
There's no way they are hands-on with any of this shit.
I just hope that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, who together have made very, very good games. The Tomb Raider game was really good. The parts of Avengers that...
The first one was.
Yeah, no, the parts of Avengers that weren't fucking, like, constant buying shit. All the good parts of Avengers were really good, and Guardians of the Galaxy was a great game last year.
Was excellent.
I would love these guys to get the budgets they deserve to make the games they want to make. I just don't know if it's going to happen under this company. Though they do have $1 billion of Saudi money, so if you need a petro-dictator to go and, either build a ridiculous mile-long city in the desert or make your new video game, that's possible.
I saw that. That was so, like...
That is not happening, by the way.
What are they doing? But
don't worry about it. But the official stance, my official prediction right now is that mile-long city in the desert is never happening. Do not worry about it. Anyway, should we talk... What was the next thing we wanted to talk about? Oh yeah, last month we had so much shit to go through that we couldn't get to this, but has anyone been playing Live Alive?
Yes.
Yes. Alright. SomeColorMage, what do you think of Live Alive?
It's excellent.
It is so good.
This game, it's a remake of Finger's 1994 game, and you can barely even tell it's dated. It is that so far ahead of its time of what we think of what JRPGs are. It's just a brilliant experience from start to finish.
So, there was actually a review recently on Paste. This was written by Jackson Tyler, who you might know as Head Falls Off on Twitter, or Nichigo character. Yeah, fun person to follow. Not sure I believe in their foreign policy takes, but that's beside the point. But Live Alive is a game I've personally been curious about for like as long as I've been into JRPGs. Because I remember hearing about this game being talked about in the same breath as Chrono Trigger. This is a game that Square, not Square Enix, but regular Square, made, I think, right between Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, around that same period.
It's the same director of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy IV, and you can kind of see the evolution of like his ideas and stuff from Final Fantasy IV through Live Alive through to Chrono Trigger. And considering how much of that just kind of influenced other works, probably one of the most influential people at Square in the SNES era because of that.
Yeah, this is Takashi Tokita, who was not the director of Final Fantasy IV, because that was Sakaguchi, but he was the lead designer. And he was one of, 4 directors on Chrono Trigger. And he's the lead director of Live Alive, which is I want to just give a brief summary of what I've seen so far of this game. So this is oh, by the way, it never got released in the US, which is what made it so interesting. Because Square Enix, in the late SNES period, had 15 turn-based JRPGs. And not all of them made... Because not everything got released over here back then. Not even Final Fantasy V got released. So this did not make the cut. So far, it is 7 3-hour-long JRPGs, each starring different characters with entirely different genres and tones. One of them is basically the movie Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. Another one is the movie Akira. Another one is it's a cowboy level. That's the one I heard about the most. And then there's a prehistory level with no dialogue whatsoever. They all talk with pictograms and voice acting. I think this game is incredibly cool, and it's incredibly cool in 1994 seeing what Square was willing to experiment with the JRPG formula. It's so fascinating to me that JRPGs, originally, they're basically just D&D and tabletop games adapted onto computers and then home consoles. That's what Final Fantasy I is. It's a D&D campaign. And you can fill in
it's homebrew D&D with which went so close that they had to hastily change a bunch of things for the translation before TSR sued them.
So you fill in the story in of yourself, but as the Super Nintendo period went on, and especially into the PlayStation period, Square increasingly starts thinking this system of just dungeon crawling and town dialogue, we could go and really tell stories with this. And Live Alive just feels like anybody with an idea at Square is hey, let's go and do a ninja story. And then we're going to do that. Let's do a survival horror on a spaceship. We're going to do that. We'll have a level for it. So it's it felt it just seemed like a great place to work. I wish I could have been there and just been bouncing ideas off, because it seemed like there were so many things they were making with so many different styles and so many different narrative attempts and pushing these rather basic tools to their limits to tell really cool stories. I think it rules, and it got re-released, remade. It's got a fresh coat of paint. Came out July 22nd, and I'm playing through it now.
Also, this is the third of the HD 2D games. So Octopath, Triangle Strategy, and now this, and next is a remake of Dragon Quest III. And this one really shows the strength of that graphical style, because this is the only game of the 4 that really has wildly different settings. The other 3 are all fairly medieval fantasy type stuff, whereas this one, just the start of the modern day chapter where you can see the city in the background and just very modern day skyscraper stuff. It looks so beautiful.
Yeah. I think the
whole game looks really good.
I think the drop shadow effects in this game and the focus, what they're doing, the depth of field, probably does the least for this particular game. But otherwise, just in terms of just let's have sprites act very exaggerated and tell stories with that, it's adorable. I love it. I think this is one of the best games of the year. I'm gonna say this right now. I hope that nobody buys Square Enix, because I feel like if Square Enix was embraced or got bought by, let's say, Amazon or PlayStation, games like this may not actually be able to get greenlit. Somebody would be like, you know what? Nah, it doesn't make enough money. We need to sell 12 million copies. So you're not making your Live Alive. No one gives a shit about that stuff. Get me another Dragon Quest. Sorry about that voice. That's actually what I really sound like. I have to struggle very hard to talk this beautiful, silky voice. But really, I'd sound like this.
No.
This is my real accent.
Well, thank you for your sacrifice.
Yep. Okay, so what should we do to wrap up the rest of this podcast? Because we have a little bit of time left. I mean, I like to hit 90 minutes. We should probably talk about what's been going on with our Final Fantasy VII pages on the wiki. Technobliterator, you've been having a bit of trouble, haven't you? Do you want to describe
Very much?
Do you want to describe the current war going on in the world of Final Fantasy VII?
Yes, I would like to describe that. So, here's the thing, right? Our Final Fantasy VII pages, like specifically the character pages, because those are the biggest on any wiki. Our character pages for Cloud Strife, Tifa Lockhart, Aerith Gainsborough are consistently three of the top 5 most viewed pages on the wiki. Like, unless, like, a big game comes out, like, a 14 expansion pack or something comes out, then maybe, like, so for instance, when 15 came out, like, Noctis overtook them, etc., right? But otherwise, you can reliably count on the fact that these 3 are gonna either be in the top 5 or at the very least the top 10. They are the most visible pages on the wiki. Like, and
can I just attach to that? I find it really funny that the number 1 page on the site, not counting the front page, but the number 1 page is almost consistently the list of loot in Final Fantasy XII.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's
one of the...
That is always the top page on the site. It, like, can never get dethroned by almost everything, although the list of jobs in Final Fantasy Tactics is cutting it close at the moment.
Yeah,
is
the
that
list of jobs in Tactics, and then there's, like, Monster Arena is pretty big for 10. Like, I think list of items for 10 used to be pretty big, and then we started making individual items pages, but...
Final Fantasy XII loot page, that might be one I wrote. Did I write that
I can
page?
give you the current top 9. I've got that open right now, because, like, first is the homepage, of course, then loot Final Fantasy XII, then only about 150 views behind is the list of tactics jobs, then Albert Primer, and then Cloud and Tifa and Sephiroth, and then after that, because of the recent Final Fantasy XIV patch, Scamayon, and then list of items in 10. And that's the current top 9.
Okay. So Aerith actually isn't on there, which is surprising because she's normally high up. Like, okay, but basically, these are 3 of the most visible, like, broadly viewed pages on the wiki. And as a result, that means that these, like, pages like these are effectively our holy grail. It's like, Blue, you know the Beatles music better than me. Like, what's their most visible album?
Their most beloved album is definitely Sgt. Pepper's, but there's no Beatles album that is not beloved and is not a super smash. But Sgt. Pepper's would be the one above all of them.
The White Album.
No, I think Sgt. Pepper's is probably the most influential album that they ever did. It created the concept album. They made a whole movie about the Beatles called Sgt. Pepper, inexplicably starring the Bee Gees. It was not good, but
Okay, so you can think of these pages as our Sgt. Pepper's, right? Mm-hmm. Or as our, like, I mean, I only know hip-hop music, so I'm gonna go, like, The Blueprint by Jay-Z. You don't know any of the Jay-Z album, but you know The Blueprint, right? Even though it's not his best one, but...
By the way, I was wondering, I did not write the Final Fantasy XII loot page. That was My Mind is Lost. Thank you so much, My Mind is Lost. I wrote the Final Fantasy XII chess pages. All of the treasure. I wrote all that shit.
Yeah, and so, like, gameplay pages get a lot of views, right? So, I mean, like... Those are also really important to the wiki as far as, like, quality standards are concerned. Like, but basically what I'm saying is, Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and I guess Sephiroth, like, those are the pages that are going to be, They are the most viewed pages on the wiki. They are the ones that everyone will be coming to first. And that's what they will go to compare the rest of the wiki against. That is your first impression of our quality standards here, of, how successful we are, like how good we are at our jobs. That is like the most visible thing to them. It's not a job. Like, we don't get paid for this. It is a hobby, right?
Though if I had a nickel for every edit I had for this wiki, I think that fandom.com would owe me roughly $5,000.
Sounds about right.
Something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, basically, like, they are going to be using these as, like, the standard against which the rest of the site will be judged. So, super important pages. It is extremely fundamentally important that we get these ones right. That is one of the most important things for us, that we get these ones right. So when I rewrote these, I had this very much in mind, not just because these are 3 of my favorite characters in the series, but also because I know that A, they have a huge fan base behind them, and B, this is, one of the most important things for the site, because, first of all, readers are going to be, are going to judge the wiki based on this. Second of all, editors are going to judge it based on this, because, editors, when our editors, when they're writing pages on, their favorite characters, on the things they want to write about, right, they are always we could write all the policy pages in the world. It will not matter. They are not going to compare against the policy pages. They are going to go on the most visible pages, right? And that's where they're going to get an example to say, my page needs to look like that.
Okay, so
given that fact...
What is the problem that's been going on that is vexing you so much, Technobliterator? Let's get to the heart of the matter.
Given that fact, it is extremely... very disappointing to me that these are also the pages that constantly receive the dumbest edits, the stupidest edits from, just from random people on the internet, and 99% of the time, it is to push their shipping war argument. That is what that is 99% of the time, you'll look through their edit, it'll be 1,000, 2,000 bytes long or something stupid like that. And they will always consistently contain something, changing the wording here to say, this is proof that Cloud loves Tifa. Or this is because, Tifa is the most important person in Cloud's life, so XYZ. Or this is because Aerith doesn't really love Cloud. Or this is actually because Aerith really does love Cloud. They always will bury that somewhere within their edit. It will be we'll change this wording here or there, and it'll just be a small grammar change because they disagree with the way I wrote the grammar, and that's fine. But they'll always throw in that one bit, and it will always be related to shipping. It will be something like, the reason why Cloud loved Aerith wasn't because he loved Aerith, it's actually because he had Zack's mind at this point, and now I'm going to write this whole long tangent about why this is, Cloud is in Zack's mind at this minute, and so we should totally discard this bit, right? And it's just motherfucker.
All right, I want to zoom back a little bit.
I wouldn't throw the word motherfucker around here because you might create a new front in the shipping war if they take that too literally.
Oh no! Oh no! By the way, there is an incest thought spell in Live Alive. It's very disturbing. Anyway, so I want to zoom back just a little bit because people listening to this might not be wiki editors, and they might not fully understand what is going on here. So, Technobliterator and me, I also did a lot of Final Fantasy VII writing. I think he rewrote everything I did. Yes, that's fine.
Did. Yeah, basically everything I did was based on what you'd originally done.
Yes, and everything I did was based on what Crazy Swordsman did for Final Fantasy VI, except for 7. So, anyway, these pages are constantly a work in progress. The wiki is never finished. It is the philosophical goal. I'm sorry, Techno, they're never done. It is always a work in progress. There's the idea...
Well, I'm going to let you finish your thought before I respond to you.
Okay. It is a wiki. It is philosophically never complete. It is philosophically open for everyone. None of these pages have our names on them except for the walkthrough pages, and I think I'm the only one that still even has any of those. By the way, if you're reading my walkthroughs, I am sorry. I wrote them when I was 17. I'm so sorry. Anyway.
No, I still find them useful. Like,
yeah.
I found your walkthrough useful when I was playing 6 Pixel
They're
Remaster,
useful, but,
so I actually thank you for the walkthroughs.
Did I need all the sodomy jokes? No, I did not. So, I apologize.
No, you did.
It was a very different time, and it increasingly becomes more and more of a different time, and I'm very sorry about those choices I made. I was 17. Anyway, so our issue is not that people are messing up our perfect little sandcastle here. The issue is that this is a wiki with rules that are set up, and we have a certain style that we want to have, and we also want to have a certain level of not addressing certain issues, such as shipping, which is not what these pages are supposed to be about. These are supposed to be pages that describe Cloud's character, they describe his stats, they describe all the various million games that he's been in. We have all the little pieces of artwork. There's a ton of cool stuff on these pages. Go check them out. They are not forums for you to go and bring up why Cloud loves Tifa more than he loves Aerith. We had a whole page for that, and that page became such a pile of shit that I think it's been deleted, right?
It has been deleted. That's correct.
It's one of the old admins, I think is Diablicon, replaced it with something that's a deliberate piece of shit and shunted off the so-called serious stuff to another page, and then they got both ended up getting deleted for being fucking... Because one of them was just shit, and the other one was shit and homophobic. So...
Yeah, that... I'm not going to... I don't know who wrote the homophobic stuff. It could have been me. I'm very sorry. I'm still sorry.
I don't know who did that either. But that one definitely did draw more attention than the serious one, because shipping is fucking stupid.
It is incredibly stupid, and well, all right, okay. It is. I mean, all right, it is a fun exercise for a fandom to take part in, and Square Enix knows that shipping is very marketable and is one of the things that people love about Final Fantasy VII. It is never going to be answered. They're going to avoid the issue of Cloud and Tifa and Aerith forever, except for the fact that Aerith is dead, so clearly it's Cloud and Tifa. I mean, what are we even talking about here?
Yeah,
I mean, seriously.
So now I guess
expect any FF7 shipper that just outright said that the reason that Cloti is correct is because Aerith and Zack are just constantly fucking in the live stream.
They're dead. So there's no discussion to be made. They're dead. There is no shipping argument anymore. It's Cloti.
So let me respond to two of the things there. Right?
Okay.
Because there's two things that I really want to respond to. Right.
Uh-huh.
But the first one is what was recently said about, the fact that basically, where our stance on the ship is, right? And, do we think this is even all that relevant? So I have a view of this, that there's a difference between the game's canon and the game's RPG mechanics, right? So the game's canon, like Blue said, I think it's a pretty open and shut case. Cloud ended up with Tifa. There's no other way. You can't get around the fact that after Final Fantasy VII, Cloud started a family with Tifa, right? In which they adopted children, right? It's an open and shut case. We know what happened. We know what the canonicity of the story is, right? As for the game itself, the game... Final Fantasy VII did an excellent job of introducing to the series the idea of role-playing in this role-playing game, right? Because this is the first one. If you look back to the games before this, the games before this do not give you this level of dialogue options for Cloud. They do not give you this level of control over what Cloud says to this person or that person. You know, they give you this whole flashback sequence where you get to put together what Cloud's idea of these, you know, past events in Nibelheim were like. The game gives you these things that previous Final Fantasy games did not give you. So it introduced a level of role-playing mechanics that we have not seen before. And those role-playing mechanics included the fact that the developers thought it would be a really good idea to introduce a love triangle, right? And have the player decide which of the love triangle, which way they lean towards, right? And many people gravitated more towards Aerith because, you know, either they were more fond of the character or they liked the, you know, they loved that love story more. They think that's a lot more compelling to them.
Well, Techno, sorry.
Power to them.
Sorry, I just wanna butt in real fast. The way the shipping mechanics are set up in that game is that if you are playing without a guide, odds are you're gonna end up with Aerith.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true, yes, because she starts with the highest level of points.
Yes.
Right? And Tifa is just below her, right? So Tifa, you have a very good chance of ending up with her, right? So there is a date sequence in this game, you know, where basically you're gonna get Tifa or Aerith unless you're like deliberately manipulating the game to get Yuffie or Barrett. And those are joke sequences that the developers put in because, you know, Cloud is straight and he clearly doesn't have a thing for Yuffie.
Let's not go and assign preferences here. Cloud is straight, but he's not that straight.
Fair enough.
We know that Klopferoff, or whatever that ship is actually the one true pairing.
I would honestly be interested in seeing the current devs' take on the Barrett date sequence, because like their take on the Honeybee Inn, which, you know, used to be basically just one extended gay joke, was really damn good in remake.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Because I mean, if you look in the Barrett date, there's a joke in there which is really badly aged, where they go up to the theater, where normally, like, you know, at the theater they say, "Congratulations, you're the 100th couple of the day. Would you like to be in this, in this play?" Which, by the way, another example of role-playing mechanics. You get to decide how Cloud responds to the play and the role he plays in it. And the only correct way is to say that your enemy is that knight.
Yeah, fuck that knight.
Anyway.
Fuck it. What an asshole.
Anyway, so, like, and, you know, the Barrett date, you know, they have a bad joke, which is like, "Congratulations, you're the 100th couple of the day. Oh, wait, no, you're not. Sorry." Which, that ain't gonna fly anymore. So, yeah, I agree. I'm interested to see where that goes. But, you know, they have these role-playing mechanics, which 7 Remake, you know, inherited those same mechanics with the resolution scene, which was a beautiful scene. All 3 of them were.
Wait.
You know, I think it's a shame that you don't still have the resolution scene.
Is
for
this
every single character, but all 3 of them are beautiful.
Is this at the final boss? You could either have Barrett or Tifa or Aerith join you?
No, I wasn't talking about that.
The final boss is based entirely on the actions performed during the previous boss fights.
It depends on like what percentage.
The resolution scene. Yeah, the resolution scene is based on the number of side quests you do. Like if you do more in the bit where we're hanging around with Tifa a bit, than the bit where hanging around with Aerith, you get Tifa's scene. If you do more in the Aerith bit, you get Aerith's scene. If you do an equal amount, if you do the same amount in both, the tiebreaker is which character you help up after you fall into the sewers just before the Abzu fight. And if you don't do enough in either of the, don't do like, I think it's at least 2 side quests in either of those chapters, you get Barrett's scene.
Is there a Sephiroth scene?
No.
There's no Sephiroth scene.
Well, I got Tifa.
So that's the thing.
Whatever.
Like, yeah, I got Tifa because of course I did. So that's how these games work. you know. And separate to the date scene in the original game, there's the Highwind scene, which, you know, a lot of people say is a very raunchy scene.
It's not raunchy, but
it is true that it is strongly implied in that scene that the two did something that night. It is also true that the game includes role-playing mechanics, and if your points with Tifa are low enough, you get a different version of the scene that is not at all suggestive.
Oh, really?
Right?
I did not know that.
Because this game has role-playing mechanics, right? And that is different from the canon of the game, right? So that is basically our take on it, right? And that was the first thing I wanted to address. Our take on it is, you know, what happens in the story, like, is an open and shut case. It is an open and shut case, the fact that, you know, Cloud ended up with Tifa at the end of it. It is open and shut that Cloud, you know, was in love with Tifa at a young age. There are novels saying as much. That is all true. There's no real, I guess, argument there, right? Now, whether or not he was in love with Aerith while she was alive during the events of Final Fantasy VII, that is deliberately ambiguous because the developers did a frankly brilliant job of introducing role-playing mechanics in this game and making it ambiguous so you the player can choose which story you find more compelling, right? And, you know, like, and that's the thing, like, people previously said in this chat that shipping was kind of stupid, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because, like, I think, you know, I see what a lot of the shippers are putting out there as content. As long as it's not attacking other people, a lot of what they're saying isn't all that bad. You know, they have a ship that really resonates with them, that they really connect with, and, you know, that's something they're really passionate about. And I don't want to take that away from them, right? The only thing I want them to do is...
Perhaps I should clarify. Like, when I'm talking about shipping is stupid, I basically solely mean arguments. I don't give a fuck about whatever arguments you've got to have, you know, two of your dolls bumping up against each other, basically. Like, just do whatever you want, make whatever cool stuff you want, but the second that you start arguing about it, it just gets terminally stupid. And it's just... God, that is, like... I mean, like... and it also gets stupid in other places. Like, oh god, yeah, some of the old stuff surrounding, you know, Kingdom Hearts fandom is stuff that hopefully has been completely sealed away and never awakened, although people did eventually go on the correct take that, you know, the main trio should probably just have a threesome at some point and get it out of the way.
Well, that's what should happen with Final Fantasy VII. It should have Xenoblade Chronicles 2's ending.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing with shipping, right? You know, you want to make, you know, like, let's use another example. The example I like to point to, which is in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang ends up with Katara at the end of the show.
Oh, shit! Spoilers.
There's a lot of people who think Katara should have ended up with Zuko. You know, you want to make your fan art about Katara and Zuko being together and write fanfics about it? Great. I'm glad that that's what makes you passionate. I'm glad that that's something you enjoy, right? But you want to start sending death threats to people that don't agree with that? Now we're crossing the fucking line.
Have we been getting death threats over shipping wars?
Fucking stupid.
I don't think we have, but that is definitely not a definitely not a single incident that Techno is alluding to.
Okay, because we have gotten death threats over certain things. I don't know if we've gotten death threats from shipping stuff.
Right, so basically, like, our problem that we have, right, with these 3 pages, and now I'm going to get to the second thing I wanted to address, right? Our problem is, you know, this is our stance, right? Our stance is that Final Fantasy VII is a role-playing game, right? The canon is open shut, is an open shut case. The gameplay mechanics are not open shut, and that's deliberately so, right? So we do not give two fucks, like, about you interpreting this for this reason and that reason and whatever as to why Cloud really loves Aerith or no, he really loves Tifa. Like, we don't care about that. And we are not gonna include that in these pages, right? These pages, these were stupid hard to write. And the reason they were hard to write is because I had to say as many things as possible in as few words as possible, right? If you look, for instance, in Tifa's personality section, that section is 5 paragraphs long. I could have easily made 20 paragraphs out of that. I didn't, right? Because that was difficult and I didn't want to, freaking bloat it. Because this is a page that needs to be read. It needs to convey information in a way that's easy to absorb, because that is the difficult part about writing an encyclopedia, right? So I don't really like the argument of, the argument we brought up of, philosophically, like, these pages are always under construction, and, they're like, a wiki is never perfect and it's never finished. I'm not even saying I disagree with that, right? I'm just saying, if you can improve this page, like, any improvements or changes we make to this page will need to receive the same level of scrutiny that the current version of the page did, right? The current version of the page, I went through like 5 different people to proofread what I was writing before I eventually said, like, yeah, I'm happy with this. Let's publish it. This is now our version of the Tifa Lockhart page. We had Kelt, I love Kelt. She's an amazing proofreader. We had, like, at least 4 people from the Discord, all that all gave this a level of proofreading, right? The people who come on there and post their 2,000 byte edit about that may basically exist to push their shipping wall, but they post their 2,000 byte edit, right? Have had no proofreading, right? They always get the formatting wrong, right? They always, make things, they mess up these pages. That's what I'm saying. Like, these people always mess up these pages, and these are the most important pages to not mess up, right? So I'm not saying you can never improve this page, because of course you can improve this page. I would never be arrogant enough to say I've made the perfect, final, best version ever of this page. I would never say that about my own writing. What I am saying is that for you to change this page, there's a process that you will have to go through, and it will have to be the same process I went through, right? And these edits are not going through that process, and that's not going to work. The only way for these pages to work is for all of these pages to go through the same process, because we can't just have someone posting something and then someone else says, oh, it looks fine to me, because there has to be a consensus process for these pages.
Yeah, and that leads to kind of the issue I think we may be having with a lot of these. I'm imagining these are mostly new editors who are causing these sorts of things.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just random IPs, right? It must be locked to that extent that you must be at least a user.
Yeah, you have to have an account to, change these.
Like, we have gone pretty hard on that, especially after we permabanned Gyrus. If you do not have an account, you are no longer allowed to use the words Cloti, Clerith, or Clessy on the wiki. Your edit will just be automatically rejected.
We've officially blocked those words. We had to block them.
Yeah.
That's them unless you have an account.
We have swear filtered those words, even harder than the normal swear filter.
That's
just
incredible.
Cannot use them if you don't have an account.
So that does kind of point to, like, just the level of spam we're receiving on these pages. But also, I would like to say that, all right, joining a wiki, it's difficult. In terms of online communities, it is probably one of the more difficult ones to get involved in. I think all of us were lucky to get involved in this wiki when it was mostly unfinished or in a pretty poor state comparatively 10 years ago. Like, when I came on here, there basically wasn't a Final Fantasy VII section. That's how early things were. Now you're coming on here, there is almost 2 decades worth of consensus and discussion and re-edits, and these pages have been written and rewritten several times. It's difficult to go and make your mark on the Cloud page. It is difficult to make your mark on the Tifa page. I would say these are not where you want to start your wikiing career. If you want to join us, there's a million other spots on this wiki that are not quite ready to get done. I know no one's ever going to write the Final Fantasy XI section to the extent that people might dream of it to be, but it is a place where you can go start your work if you think you can contribute there. There's mobile games.
Yes. But
Mobius Final Fantasy, those pages are ready to be written, man. I'm not doing it.
Even within Final Fantasy VII, you know, there are minor characters, right? You know, there are side characters. There are locations. You know, there are organizations. There are plenty of places on this wiki that I would love you to contribute.
Yes.
That I would love you to add things to. Like, you know, I mean, even around your frickin', like, oh, you know, here's the theory of Genova warping Cloud's mind, and that's why we should discard, like, his love of Aerith kind of nonsense, right? Put that on the Genova page. Maybe there's something to that, and maybe we'll consider it, you know?
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe there might be something relevant there. That would be a great place to put it. Just not on fucking Cloud's page.
There are plenty of ambiguities in the story, which there could be discussion and there could be a living document that is this wiki. I mean, this is not... I know the ultimate goal of wikis is to eventually become the perfect encyclopedia with all knowledge that ever existed, but that's never going to happen. It's not what art is. Art does not have a perfect answer to every single question. And I don't want to ever seem like we are anti-newbies. I know we are all in our late 20s and early 30s here on this wiki and have been here since the fucking Obama administration and before. Bush administration in my case. And, you know, that could be intimidating and we could seem like we're aggressive to the teenagers and 20-somethings who want to be part of this community and want to edit their favorite video game wiki. But, you know, there is a point where your contribution of what your favorite ship is, that is not a meaningful contribution to the overall discourse of Final Fantasy.
Right. But even beyond that, you know, I have no problem, like, you know, with you proposing a contribution to the Tifa Lockhart page. In fact, I'll go further and say I welcome it. You know, that's one of the pages I am most proud of, by far. If you have things that, you know, you would like to fix about it, that you think could be improved, you know, if you think you could make, like, meaningful contributions to this page, submit them to the talk page. I will be happy to go through with them and see what works, what doesn't work, you know, what feedback you all have. I welcome it. Like, I would love that kind of stuff. I just don't want it to, you know, come around and kind of like mess with the formatting and bloat things in, right? Because your edit has not received that level of scrutiny yet. The current version of this page received a ton of scrutiny, so any future contributions will need the same scrutiny, right? And if you don't want to hold up to that, if that's a little too intimidating, right, then, you know, as we've said earlier, there are other pages on the wiki where we don't have as high of an expectation yet, because, you know, there are pages that, you know, still need a lot of work, that, you know, still, like, there's tons of things that, you know, need being looked at there, you know.
There's a lot of Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, there's a lot more Final Fantasy games as well.
You like, got 1 month.
Your fan
Final Fantasy Record Keeper has 1 month left. If you could go and beat that game in the next month, you could go and be the person that will fill up our Final Fantasy Record Keeper section.
Yeah, although I'm pretty sure that's still only global that's closing and the Japanese client is still ongoing.
Well, like, we don't really have many Japanese editors.
I know Techno doesn't like the concept of full coverage of Japanese only stuff, but we will keep. But that's only just in our general operations. We don't actively go looking for it. You provide it, we'll take it, because why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's basically where we're at with that.
Okay.
But yeah. But like, I don't like what was I gonna say? Yeah, like, around the idea of me not being a newbie friendly person, like, I don't agree with this characterization because, I recently mentored like two of our biggest contributors to the Final Fantasy VII space. That's Bing Bang Po and that's Nocturne. Nocturne, by the way, wrote the current version of the Jesse article, which was, I couldn't have done that better myself. Like, Nocturne, like, is clearly a very talented writer. And Bing Bang Po knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to, like, writing gameplay content. Like, when we have people who are enthusiastic and they have something to bring to the table, like, I and we, as an extension of me, like, we are very happy to mentor you. We're happy to bring you on board, see what you have to, to contribute here, and, put your skills to good use to make, the best encyclopedia on this video game series that it could possibly be. So we're very much encouraging of that.
We are the number one encyclopedia of this video game.
We are the number one.
I think we are the website. We are probably the greatest compendium of Final Fantasy knowledge that exists. I think we've done that.
Yeah, and there's always room for improvement.
Yep.
We'd love to see what you can bring to the table. Like, we very much love that. We just don't want to bring this shipping war here because it doesn't belong here.
Yeah, look, I've played Final Fantasy VII originally like 17 years ago now. So, trust me, I've heard all the arguments. It's been done. You're never going to be the person to come up with the new compelling case. This argument is already 25 years old. SomeColorMage, do you have any other big final thoughts here? Because I'm actually reaching my heart out. So
you are very much right on that last note. The only stupid shipping war I can think of that might be older is Evangelion, which
all right,
God,
look.
that is still raging to this day, even after Hideki Anno created a new character based on his wife and made that the canon ending.
Well, all right, it was not. She's not based on his wife. He said that clearly. Like, he definitively said this character's not based on my wife. I don't feel comfortable assigning this sort of thing. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, but anyway, he made a new option just to fucking end the entire thing. Well, hopefully just to end the entire thing, and that it still hasn't. And God, fucking shipping wars, man. It's just,
you're not gonna end the debate, end the shipping war debate by some new episode comes out. One of the things the part of the FF7 Discord that I that I don't like is, either side will say, the Clerith side will say, oh, see, 7 Remake, the remake series is gonna make our ship canon because it's gonna, it's gonna have Aerith survive, and that's what they're building up to. And when Aerith survives, that will prove we were correct all along, and Cloud was meant to be with Aerith, right? And then the other side will say, oh no, actually, see, 7 Remake will prove that we're correct because it's gonna mandate that you can only take Tifa on a date, and then it's gonna have the Highwind scene in all its glory, and there's going to be nothing censored this time, and that's going to definitively prove that Cloud belongs with Tifa. Both of you motherfuckers are wrong.
We're absolutely going to see penetration in the Highwind scene.
Right, yeah. That's what the PlayStation 5, that's what we needed. We need the power of the PlayStation 5 to get every single wrinkle rendered perfectly.
They needed to penetrate Cloud's dick.
Yes. We need to get all the freckles.
You're both wrong. You're both wrong for 2 reasons. The first reason is neither of those things are going to happen. But more importantly, even if one of them did happen, that's not going to end the shipping war debate. Because shipping war debates are not based on what's canon or not. It doesn't matter. People are going to ship these characters because they find that shipping compelling, right? People ship Cloud and Aerith because they love Cloud and Aerith and love those two together. People ship Cloud and Tifa because they love Cloud and Tifa and love those two together, right? It's like my Avatar example. People ship Aang and Katara because they love the two together. They ship Aang and Zuko because they love the two together, despite the fact that the writers put Aang and Katara together. Wait, did I say Aang and Zuko? Because I meant Katara.
No, that's a much better ship. Come on, let's be clear.
anyway, so like, yeah, like, people ship because they love them together. Like, it does not matter what the canon is.
And shipping is fun. Like, we're not anti-shipping.
It is fun.
Yeah, I just watched
it's a lot of fun, right?
I just watched season 2 of Harley Quinn, and there was a big long shipping battle in the text of that thing of Harley times Ivy or Ivy times Kite Man. And, one side won, and it was really exciting. And, it's a great thing to have in art. Because people get horny, and people get relationships, and it's complicated, and it's a ton of fun to see how those relationships develop. But to end this discussion, because I do got to get going, is please do not spam the wiki with your favorite thing. And if you're just spamming the wiki to spam the wiki, well, you know what? Have fun. We're going to block you. Better people than you have tried to tear down the wiki. It's not ever going to happen. The only thing that'll destroy us is the Embracer group buying Wikia. Or fandom, whatever the hell it's called. So,
yeah, that's a pretty good fair place to end it.
Yeah, I think this is a great discussion to have. I want to have more wiki discussions on this podcast, especially when we have months without major game releases coming out. But anyway, I do need to get going.
But yeah, we don't care about ships. I could talk about 14 stuff. I don't think anyone wants me to, so I won't.
I do.
I'd
love to hear it.
My favorite ship is the Ever Given. I think its relationship with the Suez Canal was something awe-inspiring to behold when it happened, no matter how fleeting it was. I care about your Final Fantasy VII shipping opinion infinitely less than that.
My favorite ship is, Techno, you go first.
Is your favorite ship not just the Highwind? Like, isn't that meant to be your favorite ship?
Well, I mean, the name is BlueHighwind, but actually the Highwind as an airship, like 6 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Now, what is your favorite ship in all of media? Let's go, Techno. Let's hear it.
Oh man, I mean, like, it's hard to beat Darth Vader's capital ship. Like, that is the most intimidating star destroyer.
The Executor class.
That is quite a nice thing.
Yeah.
It is very intimidating.
I might go with the what the hell's it called? I need the exact name. It's the airship from Skies of Arcadia, the final one you get. It's got like a French name. It means dolphin, but what's it actually called? I want to get this right because Skies of Arcadia fans are listening, and I think it's called the Delphinus. Shit. Come on. I know everyone.
Dolphin?
The Delphinus. It was the Delphinus. That is an incredibly badass ship.
Yeah, that's not a French name.
Yeah. All right. Well, in French it would be the Dauphin, wouldn't it? Because that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind. All right, so thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Final Fantasy Wiki Podcast. This is the monthly podcast for the Final Fantasy Wiki, which, as previously established, is the greatest compendium of Final Fantasy knowledge in the entire universe. I was your host, BlueHighwind. I also edit and produce the show, so any sound issues are entirely my fault. This podcast has music, and I will find the name of that music in a second because I never have it ready because I'm stupid like that. It is La Montaña de los Caballos Jovenes, which is the Mount Koltz music from Final Fantasy VI. It was made by XPRTNovice on the Balance and Ruin OC Remix. Thank you so much for letting us use your music. And thank you so much, SomeColorMage and Technobliterator, for joining us. Have a good night. See you in September when something... We'll have something to talk about in September. I have no idea what, but we'll have something. Thank you so much. Good night.